We have a keynote from Emin Mahrt from Börse Stuttgart Digital Exchange on CeFi versus DeFi, exploring the differences and the potential for financial markets. And yeah, let's get right into it. Emin? Ah, there he is. I'm sorry, I was looking for you on the other side. Yeah.
Hello.
Stage is yours. Enjoy.
So welcome everybody to my speech. I think I have a quite difficult topic, talking centralized finance, looking into crypto, of course, versus decentralized finance. I actually don't like the versus because I don't think that we are necessarily competing. And also to maybe onboard a few people to what DeFi means in my eyes. I thought I dive a little bit into history, and especially history when it comes to trading. So these things there were not the beginnings, actually, but I just take it symbolic for time before we sit in front of computer screens. And one of my favorite ways of trading that was long before I was born was the so-called outcry trading, still happening with some commodities in some markets. But it was basically people in a room asking and selling their shares on a certain thing, like basically crying into the room, screaming into the room, I'm going to sell 20 for 13, 25 of Bitcoin. No, Bitcoin was not there back in the days. And everything was happening on paper. So people were were writing down those things on little paper notes. And then at the end of the day, they were sitting down and they had like a physical notebook. And then in this physical notebook, in their ledger, they were writing down and making sure that, the liquidity, that these trades, are recorded. It was usually only professional traders and some trading companies. Of course, and we have actually seen this similar graphic on one of the previous presentations here. It was from a presentation from Blockstack, now called Stack. And they showed a little bit the step-by-step eras that we went through. On this screen, maybe decentralized finance and smart contract protocols are not even shown, because this is something we entered in 2014 with Ethereum, but I get to this in a moment. But what changed is that from the outcry trading on the trading floor, people had access often to local area networks, not the internet back then, that was not up and running. And people were not there in person, but it was rather an account password model. Yeah, obviously they were sitting in front of computer screens, the first spreadsheets were coming up, and the most important thing maybe, everything was or is recorded on a centralized database. So when you trade today on any exchange, which is not a crypto exchange and which is centralized, you trade on a centralized database. And this database just records all the trades. There were new participants in the market, and these new participants were algorithms and software. And this is also interesting and important because when we are looking at the decentralized finance, we do have also new participants here in the market again, which is also software, but often software that runs on a decentralized network. So what is actually the decentralized network that we are all using and that was introduced? And it basically took the centralized database and made it decentralized, meaning we have still one database that everybody has access to, that we can access and read what's written in there. We cannot delete anything in this database. We cannot edit anything in this database. We can only add new data into the database. So one, I think, very, very important attribute is that it is a write-only database. And that was introduced with Bitcoin. And also Bitcoin already had some sort of smart contracts or programming language called Bitcoin script. But this was way too complicated for many people to use, although, for example, when you use a multi-signature wallet on Bitcoin, you kind of also often use, or you can use, contracts that run on Bitcoin. And Ethereum, when they started in 2014, they just added one extra new thing to the blockchain, which were smart contracts. And smart contracts are, at the end, nothing else, again, than a short piece of code that records a certain state and where you can like call these contracts, pay a gas. Yeah? I don't know, you've heard from gas fees. And gas fees was pretty easy thought. It was like for every operation, for every little thing that happens in terms of a change, you have to pay one gas. And then there's a gas market, and this works exactly the same like the transaction fees or transaction market. And the idea was that you can store and change data. And this enabled DeFi in its heart, because you could have now someone that you interact with, which is usually a contract on the blockchain that handles, for example, the trades. So when you look at what are the differences, or like what are the potential, the formula that you see here on the screen, when you look at decentralized exchanges, is the simple formula that came out when Uniswap introduced their first automated market maker. So basically, a contract that has two assets inside. For example, an Ethereum, let's call it a wrapped Ethereum token, and maybe a pegged coin like USDC. And whenever you want to change one into another, you go to that contract and you sell into the liquidity that's inside that contract. This sounds extremely easy, like most of the formulas that you see out there. I don't know, from Einstein to whatever. But when you dig into it, then actually it was some sort of a revolution. And to also talk numbers here in the decentralized space is, I mean, if you look today, the trading volume in these type of contracts and formulas exceeds $3 billion per day. And the total value that is locked in these type of smart contracts is around, it's more than 200 billion, maybe it's 250 billion already. I don't know the exact numbers. It's going in between those numbers, also a little bit based on, of course, the market. If the market drips by 20%, then these numbers look a little bit smaller. But it's the same amount of assets that are locked in there. And also it produced a lot of, let's say, creativity. So there are a lot of products that can only exist in the decentralized finance space, such as fancy words like liquidity mining, where basically the whole concept is that you go to someone and this person and you use the platform, and in return you, for example, receive the platform's own token that you can then use and trade for something else. So also one question why I am actually standing here and having this presentation is that I, coming from, like, let's say, this first movement in Bitcoin, and for me was always I was excited from the first moment that I got in touch with it, and the main idea that I'm still supporting is to put crypto in as many hands as possible. And when we talk about the accessibility, at the beginning of Ethereum, there were not even wallets. Like, there was no wallet. You had to use the console to make a transaction and do stuff. And many people, they burned themselves when they tried to actually use some of these products. When you go out there today and you want to enter decentralized finance, it's very, very easy to end up on a domain that looks exactly the same. The website looks exactly the same. You're maybe a little bit sleepy. You just want to make a quick trade. You don't really read this pop-up message that you get in your app, and you click one button and your funds are gone. And I think we lost a lot of people along the way that could have stayed in the crypto space without those losses. But also centralized exchanges are not prone to be error-free. So for example, when you look between the market between 2013, actually until 2017, where this craziness started, was the suffering from just one centralized exchange hack. And it took 4 years for the whole space to regain that trust and get to some levels where new participants entered. Still, I want to point out that the decentralized space, being open and accessible and permissionless for everyone in the world, is maybe the most important feature. When you look at the world and countries like, let's say, Ethiopia, they don't even have a stock exchange. And this is important when you look at, let's say, the crisis that we had with COVID, and there are maybe a good private hospitals, and they just cannot raise money, even though they have a very profitable business. So when we look at financial markets and what they did over many, many, many years, is also providing good startups, good businesses with money they need to grow their own business. And in order to have this accessibility, it is, I think, very, very important that anyone can enter with their ideas at any time. And also, of course, but what's the problem on the other end is that when there is a lot of potential and a lot of wild, wild west, then, of course, there are also a lot of projects that are, let's say, not the nice players, but that just want to grab a quick buck. So on my next slide, I'm representing here or working for the Börse Stuttgart digital exchange. And I just did a little brainstorm for myself when somebody asks me, hey, what are actually things why I should look into DeFi, or when should I look into BSDEX? And one of the main questions I get since 10 years in crypto is that friends write me on a chat messenger and basically just ask me, hey, where should I, like, I'm convinced now, where should I go? Where should I buy my first Bitcoin? Or where should I buy my first Ethereum? And the things that we were discussing like many, many years ago was actually the very, very difficult on-ramp to crypto. I have euro on my bank account. I want to buy crypto. That just got a little bit easier in the recent years. It was not that easy before. I remember my bank, the Berliner Sparkasse, when I did one transaction from an exchange back in the days, they just closed my whole bank account, and I got like crazy calls from my bank, and they were like, oh, we think you got, somebody compromised your bank because we saw the transaction is going out to this shady crypto exchange, and I needed to convince them that's totally fine, and I wanted to do this transaction to that exchange. Now it's much easier. Now we have also, we have banks that hold fiat. We have really trusted exchanges, and why I put like this German flag up here in a few things. We actually have exchanges all over the world that are regulated in a different way. And I have experienced MTGOX firsthand, for example, and I had to file, back in the days when they got hacked, I had to file my legal claim in Japan, which was and still is quite complicated. And many people actually really, really value to give up certain responsibility and also be in like a trusted environment. And like when you look at simple USPs, like a support that speaks German and is a company that is regulated and has a legal representative in Germany, which is basically acting as like a trustworthy gateway into this crypto world, and basically helps you on your way into like whatever you want to do afterwards with your crypto. And we see it in many, many clients that when they, for example, buy crypto, they don't, they can be their own bank. They can take it off and put it on their ledger hardware device, or they can withdraw it and use it in DeFi, but many people really do not want that. They want to have a trustworthy place, a trustworthy custodian. They want to, before they jump onto the next great big product out there, they want to kind of have someone that gives them trust that this is like, that somebody did a due diligence on this and now is offering it to you. This can be with a selection of coins. This can be with new products on the market. And yes, you're a little bit more slow, but if you have a high risk appetite, the centralized exchanges are not in your way. Also, when we look at the DeFi space right now out there, we must say that it is a wild, wild west, and that you have to be actually an advanced user. And usually how to get there as an advanced user is to play around and burn yourself a couple of times. But this is also and can be quickly very expensive, not only in transaction fees, but just, literally losing money. And what we say, and even Vitalik Buterin says this, inventing Ethereum, he says in a long time, Ethereum is broken. And why is it broken? Because it's right now actually only accessible for the elite, because the elite is the ones people that actually have the money to go there and pay $150 for transaction fees. Like many people don't have this. They have $150 that they want to invest in Bitcoin, and not $150 that they want to spend on fees. And also here, of course, centralized exchanges play a very important role into providing extremely low fees, into providing basically a free custody, right? You don't pay like a monthly fee, and they really, really help you to get started in crypto. On the other hand, in the DeFi space, we have extremely interesting products and a lot of innovation. And we see more and more how this plays hand in hand, and also how the bridges are built here. We see more also service providers providing, let's say, the service for the user to get exposure in certain products. We saw this here in the presentations when it comes to staking, which you wouldn't say is a product for, it's a DeFi product, but still, if you, for example, in the future provide, let's say, lending, or if you just sit on a certain amount of crypto and you would like to earn interest on this, there will be service companies which are centralized, yes, but that's not a bad thing. And I see like also the BSDEX as such a service company that is actually helping and enabling hopefully millions of people in the future to onboard into crypto, sometimes direct, sometimes even through a partner bank, for example, that starts offering this to their clients. And for me, this is the main difference. It's very, very, of course, a very, very complex topic, and if anybody is interested to chat with me, please reach out to me at any time. My name is Emin, and yeah, that's my presentation for today. Thank you.